How's everyone doing today? Hope you're all enjoying this lovely weather. Wonder if you can just hear me or see me okay. Can anyone give me a thumbs up if they can hear me all right? Everyone hear me okay? I hope so. Right, can anyone give me a thumbs up if they can hear me? Or a wave or something? Hi, I'm taking it that you can. Oh yeah, got thumbs up, thank you, yes, good. So I hope you are all okay today. It's beautiful weather and I hope you had a lovely weekend. So my name is Shona Wilkinson and I'm a registered nutritionist, and I just want to say thank you to We Are Fit&Well for inviting me on their live Instagram chat this morning. I'm really grateful to be part of this, so thank you. So just to let you know that this is being recorded, so if I go on for too long and you haven't got time to listen to me, you can always watch it again on Instagram TV and also the We Are Fit&Well YouTube page as well. So don't feel you have to sit and watch it all now. So what we're going to be talking about today is nutrition and stress. Stress, great, isn't it? It's what we're all facing pretty much at the moment. But what I want to talk about is what is stress, what happens to our body when we go through stressful periods, a little bit about stress and our digestive system and the gut-brain connection there, and to finish off with a few do's and don'ts nutritionally, how we can help our stress levels as we go through, how it can affect our nutrition as we go through a stressful time. And nutrition can play a huge part in helping us deal with stress. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And please feel free to ask any questions at any point. Don't wait to the end, just ask any questions as we go along and I'll try and address them. I'll try and keep up with the questions and comments there. So, first of all, what is stress? Stress, I mean, it can be classified as various different things, but it's really a strain when we are unable to cope. Now, what our body cares about is how we cope with this stress. It doesn't actually care what the stress is, couldn't care less what the stress is. It's how we respond to it, how we cope with this stress. So finding ways, stress relieving techniques is very important. We can look at things like meditation, relaxation, yoga is very helpful for people, deep breathing, but there are things that you can do nutritionally to help as well. So what happens to our body when we go through stressful periods? Now, we do actually have a hardwired stress response system, and this is known as the fight or flight response system. Now, this was actually kind of designed by our bodies to deal with something that most of us don't deal with nowadays, hopefully, but it was to help deal with a life or death situation. And this is because it's a historical thing that has evolved. So we always quote about the story about, we're going to get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, and our body has to react to deal with this life or death situation. So our hardwired response is for our adrenal glands to release cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. Now, when we're talking about a life or death situation, these hormones are released, then the danger goes, and the hormones are reduced. Now, what's happening nowadays is that, thankfully, we don't usually have a life or death stressful situation. But what we are facing nowadays is something slightly different. It's more low-grade, long-term stress. And this is having a very negative impact on our health. We're still getting the release of the cortisol, the noradrenaline and the adrenaline, but we're getting it in lower levels, but constantly. It's not just something that happens and then it's gone. So it's this constant low-grade stress that's causing problems for us. And this can lead to both physical and emotional problems. So if we think about emotional problems, I can list some now and maybe have a think. Is this you? Are you suffering from any of these? A reaction to stress could be mood swings. Now, these just aren't normal mood swings. These are something that are quite different from what you usually have. You could be feeling very withdrawn. And I think this is something that's quite relevant at the moment, because a lot of us are withdrawn from society in general because of lockdown. But are you feeling even more withdrawn? Are you worried about the end of lockdown? Lots of people are really happy about it, excited to be drinking out in the pubs. But there's also people who it's affected in a different way, and they're very worried about coming out into the community again. So if this is you, then it could be a symptom of stress. The mood swings can be something really rage inside, really aggressive. That could be a symptom of stress. Or the exact opposite side, where you're very emotional and you cry over the slightest thing. You see a picture of a cute puppy or kitten or something and it brings you to tears. Also feelings of anxiousness and worry, of course. And also one that people don't always recognise is a loss of concentration, a loss of focus. Are you finding it difficult to concentrate on your work at the moment? Is your mind a little bit all over the place? Have you got a bit of brain fog? Again, not just normal stuff, but something that's quite different from you. This could be stress. And physical symptoms, of course, we have increased blood pressure, which can cause cardiovascular problems. Panic attacks is quite common for people, and sleep problems. Stress really negatively affects our sleep cycles. So not just that we can't get to sleep, but when we are actually asleep, we have a very disturbed sleep and it's not as effective. And we know that long-term stress plays a part in many health conditions, diabetes, digestive problems, and cardiovascular health. So it's not right to underestimate the detrimental and negative effects that stress can have on our body. And just to talk a little bit about stress and the digestive system. So we do know that there is a huge link between stress and our digestion. So again, you may not have made this link, but are you suffering from bloating, which you haven't before, constipation, diarrhea, IBS? All these kind of symptoms can be as a result of stress. And this is because, talking again about our hardwired stress response, when we're going through that life or death situation and our body's releasing the adrenal stress response hormones, it actually shuts down our digestive system. And this is because when you are facing that life and death situation, the last thing your body needs to be worrying about is whether you're digesting your nutrients properly. So in that situation, our digestive system is shut down to give our body time to concentrate on other things. But of course, we're not in this life or death situation at the moment. We've got this low-grade, long-term stress. And instead of shutting down our digestive system, it can still affect it. So we're getting a lot of IBS symptoms from people, and we know there's a strong link between stress and IBS. So think about that. Is your digestive system different than it was maybe a year ago? Do you think stress is affecting it? Now, luckily, there are things we can do nutritionally to help with our stress and help support our body going through these times of stress. And I think we have to admit that most people are facing a stressful situation at the moment. Whether they recognise it as stress or not, living through a pandemic is a stressful thing for us all to go through. And I know we are hopefully coming to the end of it, but we still have a long way to go. So we'll talk about some do's and don'ts nutritionally. This is actually just generally good healthy eating advice as well, but we'll talk about the don'ts first of all. Should we get those out of the way? So some don'ts. There's a top 3 don'ts, which is not rocket science, and you've probably heard all this before, but you've heard it before because it is so important. So number 1, caffeine. Now, we talked about when we're facing stressful situations, our body is releasing stress hormones, one of which is cortisol. And cortisol, we know, is actually released when we have caffeine as well. So you can imagine that if you are stressful and you're having caffeine, it's a double whammy release of this cortisol, which has negative effects on our health. We also know that caffeine can utilize B vitamins, can use up B vitamins. And we know that stress also uses up B vitamins. So again, that's a double whammy. So try and think about, do you have caffeine in your diet, which is usually coffee or fizzy drinks. Try and reduce them quite slowly to begin with. You don't have to cut them out totally. But try and replace maybe the odd one with a herbal tea, for example. The second don't is sugar. So again, none of this is rocket science. I'm sure you've all heard it before. We know that sugar, along with stress, can affect our mood swings and cravings. So if you're having a stressful situation and you're having a high sugar diet, then you're having both of these together. You're going to be creating this recipe for mood swings and cravings. And what happens with sugar is that when we eat sugary foods, they release their sugar into our bloodstream quite rapidly, which is great to begin with because you can feel that you've got a real boost of energy. But because it's so much sugar, our body reacts by trying to reduce it. So we have this great big release of sugar into the bloodstream, but that's followed by a slump. And this slump can cause mood problems and cravings in particular. So you can imagine if you start your day off with a slice of white toast with jam on it and a cup of coffee thrown in there, that's quite high sugar. So you are going to feel great. You're going to have that boost of energy, right, ready to face the day. But about an hour and a half later, that will be followed by a huge slump in energy. And that's when you get the cravings. So you might think, oh, I'm really hungry. I want carbohydrates usually or sugar. So you reach for the biscuits at about 11 o'clock. And then you have a little increase of energy followed by the slump. So you have your white baguette with a muffin or something for lunch, so that you can see if you start the day off with a high sugar, it kind of follows throughout the day. You get a little peak of energy followed by a slump, peak of energy, slump, peak of energy, slump. And what we want to do is have a nice slow release of energy throughout the day. So we want to focus on foods that give us this slow release of energy without these huge peaks and troughs, which can eventually lead to diabetes, actually. This is the start of diabetes. But if you're someone who suffers from the sort of 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock slump in energy, just think, is it my blood sugar levels? So instead of reaching for the toast and jam for breakfast in the mornings, try focusing on something that incorporates all the food groups if you have breakfast. Something like a slice of smoked salmon with avocado on toast is a really good breakfast, and it will help keep your blood sugar levels level throughout the day. So you've got a nice steady release of energy rather than having those cravings. So if you do suffer from cravings, just think blood sugar levels. And the third don't, so there's only 3, unfortunately this one is alcohol. So we know alcohol can have a bit of an instant relaxation effect. So I know when I have my gin and tonic, I do think, oh, that's good. But we also know that too much alcohol is a negative thing. And one of the things that relating to stress, it can really cause a problem with is our sleep patterns. So some people do feel that alcohol is good for them because it helps them go to sleep, which it can do. It can knock you out to sleep quite quickly. But what it also causes is disrupted sleep throughout the night. So you might find yourself tossing and turning or waking up throughout the night. So alcohol isn't really something we should be reaching for. Now, bear in mind that we are all going through an incredibly stressful situation at the moment, and we have to be kind to ourselves. So I'm not saying cut these things out totally at all. Please do still treat yourself because you deserve it. But we have to focus on the long game, and that is that healthy eating is going to help us cope with this stressful period. So the do's. There's certain nutrients that we really need to make sure we get in our diet when we're focusing on times of stress. So I just want to run through those quite quickly. The first one is B vitamins. So we know that B vitamins are utilised when we're stressed. We use B vitamins up a lot more, so we need to make sure we're getting some in our diet. You can get B vitamins from nuts and seeds and dark green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kale, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all those dark green leafy vegetables. And they are just jam-packed full of nutrients. So try and make sure that you're getting dark green leafy vegetables into your diet. I know we talk about 5 a day as being something we should try and reach, but as nutritionists, we actually talk about 5 portions of vegetables a day, and then maybe 2 to 3 portions of fruit on top as being the perfect ratio there. So you could be adding vegetables to your casseroles, to your stews, to your stir fries, smoothies. If you're having a smoothie, make sure about 3/4 of it is vegetables, and the other quarter can be like berries and nut butters, that kind of thing. So just think of ways of incorporating vegetables into your diet. Again, you know, we know this, but do we actually do it? We know that less than 20% of people take their 5 a day. Less than 20%. So we've really got to focus on ways, and specifically the dark green leafy vegetables. You'll find nutritionists talk a lot about dark green leafy vegetables because they are so nutrient dense. They've got pretty much everything you want in them. So if you can increase your dark green leafy vegetables, that's such a huge step towards improving your health and helping you deal with stress. The other nutrient that's quite important during times of stress is vitamin C. Now, the largest store of vitamin C is in our adrenal glands, and we need to look after our adrenals at the moment. So most people do know sources of vitamin C. We always think about oranges straight away, but yes, citrus fruits, but kiwis and red peppers in particular are very high in vitamin C. So think of adding those into your diet as much as possible. You can have them raw or add them into pretty much everything actually. And vitamin C is obviously very important for our immune system. We know that stress affects our immunity, so that's another reason to make sure you're getting enough vitamin C in your diet. The third nutrient I want to talk about is magnesium. Now, magnesium is known as nature's relaxant, really, and that's both physically and mentally. So magnesium is really good if you suffer from cramps, physical cramps, or restless leg syndrome, but also emotionally, magnesium is very good as a relaxant. Lots of people have magnesium baths. You can buy these magnesium bath flakes that are a bit like bath flakes, but they're magnesium, and you can just add them into your bath and have a nice relaxing bath. Really great. So good sources of magnesium. If you can snack on Brazil nuts, they're a good source. Dark green leafy vegetables, of course, always dark green leafy vegetables, and also the good news, chocolate. So chocolate is a good source of magnesium, but we are talking about dark chocolate. So this is, if you look on the label of good quality chocolates, it will have a percentage on it. So if you look for chocolate that is about 70% plus, that's a good one, good source of magnesium. So chocolate, there's some good news. And as I said, please feel free to ask any questions. Okay. Another nutrient I want to talk about as being beneficial is essential fatty acids. Now, the term essential in essential fatty acids means that we can't get it, our body can't manufacture it, so we have to get it through our diet. Now, you might have seen it called omega-3 essential fatty acids, and they contain something called EPA and DHA, which is eicosapentaenoic acid, I think, and docopentaenoic acid. I think that's how you pronounce it. I can't remember. Luckily, we know them as EPA and DHA. So these are really beneficial for health in general, but predominantly vision, cardiovascular health, but in relation to this, cognitive function. So if you're suffering from, as we discussed earlier, being unable to concentrate as much or focus as much, then really consider omega-3 essential fatty acids. Now, food sources are predominantly oily fish. So fish such as salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies, herrings, those kind of oily fish are really high in EPA and DHA. If you don't eat oily fish, or you're a vegan or a vegetarian, then you can consider taking alternatives such as flaxseed, chia seeds. But just bear in mind that they contain something called ALA. Now, it gets converted by our body into EPA and DHA. So it does have the end result, but the conversion rate from ALA into EPA and DHA is actually quite low, as little as 2 to 5%. So just bear that in mind. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, or you don't eat oily fish, you may not be getting enough of this. And because of that, people do tend to take supplements, omega-3 supplements, which are predominantly from oily fish. But now you can get really good quality omega-3 supplements that are vegan because they're sourced from algae. They never used to be very good quality, but they are getting really good now. So you can look for a supplement if you don't feel you're getting this in your diet. Gosh, we're running out of time already. The last thing I want to talk about is some herbs that you may not be able to get in your diet. So herbs to look out for, one I really like is called ashwagandha. Now, ashwagandha is an Ayurvedic herb. It's been around for thousands of years, and it's called an adaptogen. It means it helps bring your body back to where it should be, the focus where it should be. Another good herb to look out for is rhodiola. Rhodiola is really good for focus and concentration, for cognitive function. Very commonly taken by people before they're taking exams. Other ones to look out for are cordyceps, 5-HTP, which is 5-hydroxytryptophan. 5-HTP is a precursor. It's converted by the body into serotonin, which is known as our happy hormone, so it can help with mood. And that is in turn converted into melatonin, which is known as our sleep hormone. So 5-HTP is quite an interesting nutrient. And chamomile is another great one, which, you know, historically has been used forever to help with calming, relaxation, and sleep patterns. So that's a lot to take in about what we can do nutritionally. Take home dark green leafy vegetables, and oily fish. So important for our health in general, but specifically with stress. So please, if you take home anything, thinking about increasing those vegetables is really important. If you're worried that you don't have the perfect diet, and none of us do, I can assure you, you may want to consider taking a supplement, in which case you can consider a supplement that's designed specifically for stress, such as this one by Dr. Vegan, which is called Stay Calm. Now this contains ashwagandha, which we talked about, cordyceps, rhodiola, we talked about all these, as well as magnesium, the B vitamins, and a few other things. So if you're worried that you're not getting these nutrients, then consider a supplement like this. And if you're worried about how stress is affecting your sleep, then you can look for a sleep supplement. This one again contains magnesium, which we talked about, 5-HTP, chamomile, and a few other ingredients. So we've talked about these. So this is a very simple way of just getting all those nutrients into your diet. Okay, I'll show you those. Right, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. As I mentioned, you can watch this with We Are Fit and Well on their Instagram and their YouTube as well. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. It does look beautiful weather out there, so please take the most of it and go to the shops now and buy those dark green leafy vegetables. Thank you. Bye-bye.